Good day, this is ACT309, Public Sector Accounting. I will be taking you through Study Section 6, Consolidated Revenue Fund and Development Fund. When you have studied this section, you should be able to explain Consolidated Revenue Fund, CRF, and its various sources. You should be able to define the Capital and Development Fund and its revenue sources. And lastly, you should be able to explain Contingency Fund. But let us first of all talk about Consolidated Revenue Fund. Consolidated Revenue Fund was established in accordance with Section 80 of the 1999 Constitution, which stated that all revenues or other monies raised or received by the Federation shall be paid into and form one consolidated revenue fund of the Federation. Consolidated Revenue Fund can be referred to as an account in which receipt of the tiers of government from both the Federation account and internally generated revenue are paid into. Consolidated Revenue Fund is also known as Federal Government Account or POS, in which all government receipts are paid into. No money can be withdrawn except by the approval of National Assembly for the federal government and State House of Assembly for the state government. This is an example, is a format of a Consolidated Revenue Fund account. As you can see, it's a format of the account of consolidated revenue, and you can see the entries. I hope you are going to take a good look at it. Let's move on as we talk about other the sources of revenue into Consolidated Revenue Fund. Different sources of revenue into Consolidated Revenue Fund, and this can be direct tax. We have indirect taxes, direct taxes, indirect taxes, license and internal revenue, mining, federation accounts, armed forces, rent of government properties, reimbursement, interest and payment, earnings and salaries, and lastly fee. Let's discuss some of this. Under direct taxes, we have direct taxes are also referred to as payee, and that is spelled P-A-Y-E, which is an acronym which means pay as you earn. It is derived and deducted directly from the salary of the civil servants. And the following, we have some examples of the civil servant we're talking about, which could be Nigerian Police Force, Armed Forces, High Commissions and Embassies, Ministry of External Affairs officers, residents of Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. We also have indirect taxes. These include taxes derived from manufacturing and importation of goods and services, commodities. They also include customs and excise duties, for example, import duties, export duties, excise duties, tariffs, and value-added tax, which is VAT. Under license and internal revenue, these are revenues from issue of license. It consists of license fee like arms selling license fee, company registration fee, citizen license fee, goldsmith license fee, residence permit fee, and so on. Under federal account, according to Section 162 of the 1999 Constitution, the Federation account is a special account required to be maintained by the Federation of Nigeria. All revenue collected by the government of the Federation, except the earnings from the personal income tax of the armed forces of the Federation and Nigerian Police Force, shall be paid into this account. This is federal government allocation from the federal account. Capital Development Fund. Section 1 of the Second Schedule of Finance, Control and Management Act of 1958 stipulates that there shall be established the development fund to be maintained by the Accountant General of the Federation, and which shall be used to finance all capital development projects to be executed by the government. And the sources of revenue into capital and development fund can be generated, and they are separated into 4 different classes, as you can see on the slide in the presentation. Number 1, contribution from the consolidated revenue fund. That's one of the sources. These are the money that are usually transferred every year from the consolidated revenue fund into federal government account, even if it is not stated in the constitution. We have external loans. The product of external loans raised by the government, by the federal government, purposefully for special capital expenditure. We have external grants. These are form of money or direct services received from foreign countries or non-financial institutions, for example, IMF, World Banks, and so on. And we have internal loans. These may be raised through sale of stocks, sale of treasury certificates, or treasury bills. Let's talk about contingencies fund. Section 83 of the 1999 Constitution provides that the National Assembly may, by law, make provision for the establishment of a contingencies fund for the Federation and for authorizing the President, if satisfied that there has been arising an urgent and unforeseen need for expenditure for which no other provision exists, to make advances from the fund to meet the need. A contingencies fund is simply a reserve fund set aside to handle unexpected debts that are outside the range of the usual operating budget. This model of maintaining reserve money as protection against possible loss in the event of emergency situation can be utilized in a number of situations. Government, private business, and even individual households can establish and maintain a contingency fund as part of overall financial plan of operation. In the government setting, the contingencies fund is often identified as a calamity recovery fund or calamity assistance fund. Generally, the terms of use for the reserve money placed into the fund will be clearly defined. This action makes it possible for local and federal government to provide assistance to citizens and municipalities when some type of natural and economic disaster take place, provided the events meet the qualification set in place for the fund. At other times, a government may establish a contingencies fund as a backup against possible losses in income from taxes and other revenue sources. When this is the case, the government can draw upon the fund to cover losses in operational costs, keeping key public services such as law enforcement and city services function. Let's move on as we talk about the purposes of contingency fund. Government contingency fund offer temporary assistance in these following ways. Number 1, to cater for individuals and families who fall below specific income levels, to assist individuals that typically seek government assistance funds due to limited access to jobs, to assist individuals who are incapacitated to work due to illness or disability or deficiencies in marketable skills, to assist citizens in meeting family foods and shelter expenses, to employ individuals to gain new skills for the purpose of entering our workforce, to enroll unemployed citizens in job training and counseling programs to assist them in securing higher incomes. These are some of the purposes of a contingency fund. I hope you have learned 1 or 2 things in this study section, and I hope that you will continue to learn more in the subsequent study sections. Thanks for listening.